and welcome back to J.P.'s World of Wrestling. I am your man, J.P., and obviously, my wall is empty. Now, why is my wall empty? Well, because I'm moving. Yep, that's right. My wife and I have got approved. We've gotten approved. Anyway, we were approved for this real estate company. We applied to rent one of their rentals, whether it be a townhouse or a regular house, whatever, but we got approved. So we're going to be moving out of this apartment, and we're going to be moving, we don't know exactly where, but we know that we're moving out of this place. It's just, we like the city that we live in, we like the community, we like the people that live here, but we don't like the real estate company that manages this property. We don't care for them. I'm not going to name them, but we don't really care for the way that they do things. So we're moving, and so our lease is up at the end of next month, and so I've just decided to get a head start on packing everything up. So I took everything off my wrestling wall. Looking over there, I still have all my Hot Wheels and stuff up from when I was doing the retro stuff on this channel. So I'm going to be taking those down here pretty soon. But I just wanted to give you guys a quick update, and just so that you guys know kind of what's happening. So, I mean, I'll do a couple of videos today just with this setting. But then after that, I probably won't do any for a little while. I mean, I might still do some wrestling figure matches just because I still have that all set up over there. But, yeah, I mean, I might not bust out a ton of content until we're all moved out and moved into the new place, wherever that may be. I don't know. But anyway, so let's get into the Royal Rumble 1994. Now, Royal Rumble 1994, it was interesting because it was kind of the start of the new generation. You know, by this time Hulk Hogan is gone, but the WWF is going through some major transition because at this time they're kind of hurting because they're going through a steroid trial. That's when Vince McMahon was being investigated by the federal government over steroids, and he's being put on trial. And the WWF, you know, they've got Brett, but Brett was originally supposed to be sort of a transitional champion until the WWF could find their next big star. And so they tried to push Lex Luger, but they really weren't sure if Lex Luger was really going to work. So they're trying things with Brett, they're trying things with Lex, so they weren't really sure about which direction they were going to go, but they were pretty sure they were going with Brett, but they were still kind of trying to feel out Lex to see where that was. So that brings us to the Royal Rumble 1994. So let's look at the card. You know, we've got Tatanka versus Bam Bam Bigelow, two, you know, former $1 Billion Corporation members. Then we have the Quebecers versus the Hart Brothers for the tag team titles. Now, the story in this match is that at the Survivor Series, we saw Bret Hart and his brothers defeat Shawn Michaels and the Knights, which was originally supposed to be Jerry Lawler and the Knights because the Harts had been feuding with Jerry Lawler. But for whatever reason, I forget what it was, but Jerry Lawler couldn't make the Survivor Series, so they put Shawn Michaels in his place. And so the Hart brothers were victorious, but Owen Hart was the only one eliminated. And basically what had happened is Owen Hart was, you know, bouncing off the ropes, but Bret Hart was kind of in the middle. And so when Owen Hart bounced off the ropes, he knocked Bret off the ring apron, and he was distracted a bit and allowed the Shawn Michaels team to get a pinfall elimination over Owen. But Owen was the only Hart brother eliminated. So after the match was over, Owen Hart comes down and he kind of gets in Bret's face and say, "Hey man, what are you doing? You know, you just screwed me up here." So, but then at the Royal Rumble, Owen and Bret kind of make up briefly, and they go after the Quebecers tag team titles. But in this match, you know, they kind of did it kind of brilliantly in regards to Bret and Owen, because in the match, you know, the match was going pretty good, and but Bret, you know, his leg was kind of hurt, and for whatever reason, he wouldn't tag Owen in. Owen kept reaching for the tag. He's like, "Hey, come on, tag me, brother. I know you're hurt." But Bret, instead of tagging, he went for the sharpshooter. But the other Quebecer came in, messed up the count, and long story short, the Quebecers retained the tag titles. But then after the match, Owen Hart kicked her injured leg out from under him, and injuring his leg even more. And Owen Hart, you're like, "All you had to do was tag me, Bret. You're too darn selfish. That's why you didn't tag. Because you just had to get your sharpshooter on because you're too darn selfish. You're too darn selfish, brother. All you had to do was tag me." And he kept doing that whole thing. And in a way, he was kind of right. You know, Bret could have tagged him, but he chose not to. So anyway, that was a pretty good story that they were doing. I always kind of enjoyed the story between Owen Hart and Bret Hart. And full disclosure, I was always more of an Owen Hart guy, but that's just between us. Anyway, Intercontinental title, Erwin R. Shyster taking on Razor Ramon. Interesting, because Razor Ramon, a.k.a. Scott Hall, never really participated in a Royal Rumble match. Every Royal Rumble event, he was always in a single match. At this point, he was facing IRS. Now, Razor went in as the champion, and at one point during the match, IRS had gotten a pinfall victory, but he had used the briefcase, or he had done some little bit of cheating. And so a second referee came down and told him, "Hey, you know, Erwin cheated." And so the match continued, allowing Razor to pick up the win. And I find that interesting, because normally when a wrestler cheats, a second referee doesn't normally come down and say, "Hey, this guy cheated." And that's no, but if it advances the storyline, oh, well, then a second referee will come down and say, "Yeah, this guy cheated over here. You can't trust what you just saw." I don't, is that my Peter Griffin? I don't know. Anyway, so then we had a WWF title match, casket match. Yokozuna versus The Undertaker. Ooh. Yeah, so The Undertaker had the match well at hand. You know, he was in control of the match. But then all of the other wrestlers, all the other heel wrestlers came out from the dressing room. Well, you know, there was a few Japanese wrestlers in this event. You know, Diesel was in this event. You know, a lot of the heel wrestlers came down. And they all came down and ganged up on The Undertaker, and allowing Yokozuna to win the match. And it was a casket match. So they all beat down The Undertaker. Yokozuna rolled The Undertaker in the casket, closed it, wins the match, you know, retains the title. But, you know, The Undertaker, they did this weird thing where all the lights went out, and it showed like a view of like inside the casket. And then they did this weird thing where there was like this, and then it showed like kind of a negative image of The Undertaker. And then it shows The Undertaker waking up like, "Yokozuna, you may have won this, but you will never extinguish the flame, the eternal flame of The Undertaker." And then The Undertaker sort of ascended into heaven, I guess. I don't know. It was kind of weird. Kind of a weird deal all around. So then we had the Royal Rumble match, which was okay. At one point during the match, though, Diesel was just throwing guys out one by one or whatever, but eventually, um, you know, Macho Man came in, and he wasn't allowing Diesel just to throw him out. So at that point, guys kind of started piling in. But the weird thing about this Royal Rumble is we had two winners. At the end, it was Lex Luger and Bret Hart, the two guys that WWF was trying to push. So both those guys went out at the exact same time. And so the referees were like, well, who won? We don't know. Who? Do you know who won? I don't know. Do you know who won? I think Lex won. No, I think Bret won. They couldn't figure it out. So the WWF president, Jack Tunney, came down and said, hey, let's just say both guys won. We're both winners. And so, yeah, both guys won the Royal Rumble. And so they did this thing where both guys wrestled Yokozuna for the title at WrestleMania 10. So, there you have it. Not the best Royal Rumble. Not the worst, but certainly not the best. Not even like in the top 10. So, I don't know. It was okay. I mean, just the participants in this Rumble were just, I don't know, just kind of, I mean, Owen Hart was in there. Macho Man, Doink, you know, and just a bunch of other guys. Shawn Michaels, and then just a bunch of other guys that are never going to win the Rumble. You know, like Mo and Virgil. Yeah, those guys are going to win. Those guys are going to main event WrestleMania. I'm not speaking ill of Mo or Virgil. You know, those guys were entertaining in their own way, but they weren't top guys. Anyway, but that was Royal Rumble 94. Not exactly the greatest Royal Rumble, but it was what it was. So what are your memories of Royal Rumble 1994? Leave them in the comments below. And that's going to do it for this video. So if you're new, please feel free to like and subscribe. And I really will, see you next time.